Hello everybody and welcome to part 19 or so of my Fire Emblem 6 hard mode chapter guide. Today we're going to be looking at chapter, I believe this is 16, yep, Storming the Capital. So this chapter is really interesting and there's a lot going on here. This is probably the one chapter in the game, or one of the biggest ones that I'll say. Some of the things that I do, I don't think everyone necessarily needs to do on every playthrough, because there's a lot of weird little things that we're going to be doing in this chapter. But there's a ton. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. There's a ton of great items and characters. Well, a few characters strewn throughout this chapter. Also, some interesting stuff going on. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Basically, the sort of quirk of this chapter is gonna have to do with this guy right here. So these two, who you can actually check, but they're bosses for later on in the game, will go away. But Douglas is gonna stay. Now, Douglas is a recruitable character, but basically what you have to do is keep him alive throughout this entire chapter. Now, this can be kind of tedious, especially if you do what I'm gonna recommend, which is a lot of different things in this chapter. It's gonna take quite a bit. So we'll kind of talk about how I like to handle Douglas, given the strategy I like to use, and also potentially other ways to handle Douglas. But first, I want to talk about a new character that we just got. It's funny, actually, because she just kind of appears at the bottom of your team, but here's Fa, or I guess in this translation patch, maybe Faye. I'm not really sure, but she's a Manakete that you recruit at this stage of the game. She's a really weird character, so there's not really like a lot of Manaketes in Fire Emblem. I guess there's some in the older ones, and then there's like Myrrh in the GBA games. None in Fire Emblem 7. Fa is weird because she only has a 30 use Divine Stone, and that's it, right? Myrrh from Sacred Stones has a 50 use. I believe hers is just a Dragon Stone. She's also a lot closer to the end of the game. Fa is level 1 with a 30 use Divine Stone, so it's going to be really hard to actually give her that many levels. Yeah, I don't know. Fa's kind of an enigma. I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do with her or what the developers had intended with her. Now, she's not a terrible unit. Right off the bat, as you can see, one of the biggest things is that she has 26 resistance, which is a lot of resistance. She also already has 30 attack and 131 hit, so she deals damage quite well. And she takes hits pretty well. She also has 17 defense. She's not really like a long-term unit that's particularly usable, but she can be a a pretty nice unit to deploy, especially if you're sort of struggling for quality units at the moment. But the big thing that she does extremely well is base 26 resistance is enough to actually take siege tomes and basically anti-magic extremely well. So this guy, for example, has Purge, and he can be kind of annoying. As you can see, his range is not too bad, but he's going to be like moving over this direction if you don't bait him out. Now, you can do this with both characters, but Fur actually does this really well because you can have her just sit down here and take these purges all day. So, yeah, Fa isn't, I would say, a particularly good unit, but she can offer some decent combat, especially if you gain her some levels. She does have good growths, so... But yeah, that's Fa. As far as the actual chapter and deployment is concerned, we basically only need one unique character, and that's Melody, because she's going to have a unit up here in the far left, named Zeus, her brother, who we're going to be recruiting with her. Obviously, as I said, you know, as I always say, you should be bringing Melody anyways, but she's really good at that. The last thing that I do want to mention right off the bat here is this guy right here. Now, he has 17 magic bolting, so it's not weak. So my recommendation is to, if you have a good bow user, this can be a really good opportunity for them. In our case, we have nobody stronger than a green, but basically give a green a longbow. Because the thing is, this guy's not going to move here, and that's the only way you to range him. So the only way you're going to kill him is by longbowing him. So basically, turn 1, what you can do is dance for a green. Your dancer doesn't need to either be barriered or strong enough to take the bolting, and then you can longbow the mage. So I think that's a decent strategy. But yeah, the way I like to handle this chapter is to send everybody up this direction, and basically Douglas is going to get to about here, and then surround him with 3 units. And basically just have those 3 units and then a healer for the entirety of the chapter, and just have him swing the axe at them. Now, there's a lot of other strategies here. You can split your army and then have them bait Douglas either in the middle or around this way, and then go the other direction. If you're trying to finish this chapter relatively quickly, that's the way to go. But there's a lot going on in this chapter. So there's a bunch of chests over here. There's a bunch of chests over here. Narshan needs to be stolen from because the Delphi Shield is one of the best items in the entire game. It means that there's no effective damage against wyverns, which is really good for melee. He also has a blue gem. There's also the first opportunity for a secret shop, which is over here in the corner. And we're going to be getting the member card from Hugh here. So there's a lot going on in this chapter. So while you can sort of, bait and switch Douglas for a while, it might be more beneficial to just trap him in the corner like we're going to be doing. But yeah, I'm going to do some of my preps. I'll give Green a longbow, and then we'll start the chapter. We'll talk about it a little bit more after I do that. Okay, so there's one other character that I forgot to mention, and that is Merlinus. So we've talked about Merlinus a little bit at this point. He's basically you only deploy him if you either want, I don't know, a unit that can absorb a hit, I guess, because he's infinite, or because you want to have access to your convoy. Now, basically the way this chapter is going to work, and this is one of the reasons that, the biggest reason actually that I've talked about how important keeping money is because you can actually buy stat boosters from the secret shop on this chapter. Now again, this is where this chapter becomes a little tedious and a little weird. You don't have to play it this way, but you can buy, I don't know if they're Seraph robes or Angelic, I think they're Angelic robes in this game, which are the stat booster that gives plus 7 HP. And that stat booster is really, really strong. So with the silver card, these things cost 4,000 gold, which is honestly not that much. So basically, if you want to, this chapter can set you up for the entire rest of the game. I mean, we could be looking at a Lou with like 50 health by the end of this chapter. So that's what I would recommend spending your money on. It's not a must. You can also buy promotion items here. So if you're like short a promotion item for one of your units because you didn't get one, or you're just training too many calves or mages or whatever, this can be a really good opportunity for that. But yeah, just be aware, if you do want to do that strategy, I would highly recommend bringing Merlinus, because he can basically use your entire convoy, and it's a really good way to like sort out your convoy too, because a lot of times it can get really cluttered. I think mine's at like 80 or something right now. You can sell a lot of the stuff that you don't care about, but yeah, I just figured I'd mention that. So I think I have come up with my team. So we'll start this chapter. I just want to show what we're going to be doing with the green here. So check the dancer range. Now a green, it's actually kind of weird in this game. Siege tomes only weigh 10, which I believe in Sacred Stones and in Fire Emblem 7 they weigh 20, which basically means that nobody has any speed when they're using them. But 10 weight actually isn't that insane in this game. So just be aware that, yeah, doubling him actually isn't the easiest thing in the world. In fact, a green gets weighed down by 3. I believe 3 with the longbow, because I believe it also weighs 10. Yeah, so she actually has 12 speed, so she just barely doubles. And if we do hit these 274%, we should be able to take this guy out. It's not the most consistent, which is why it's nicer to have your own archer who has a little bit better hit. But it's really nice to just kill that archer. Or to just kill that mage right away. This guy will be able to range you, but he doesn't have anything too important. And then, like I said, I'm also going to be using fur. Again, it's not super important that you bring fur. I just kind of wanted to... This is one of the only things she's going to be doing for us, so I figured that we'd bring her. But yeah. Okay, so this is where this chapter is going to get, I would say, slightly controversial for the strategy that I like to take. So, there are a few characters you can recruit on this chapter, one of which is Hugh, who we're looking at right here. Now, here's the thing about Hugh. He's a decent looking mage. If you do really want a mage or a sage, he can be a good option. But it costs a decent amount of money to recruit him. Basically, you offer him money, and then as you offer him less and less money, his stats go down. And I believe it costs... give me 1 second. Probably should have pulled this up. I believe it costs something like 20,000 or 12,000 to begin with. Yeah, so it starts at 10,000 and then it goes down from there. Now, if you're going to recruit Hugh, I would highly recommend offering him the most. If you spend 5,000 on him, his stats are just going to be quite a bit lower, and it's going to be pretty pointless to actually train him. Now, you can recruit Hugh, and you can absolutely use Hugh. He's not terrible. But all we really want off Hugh is the member card. And I mentioned that at the end of this chapter to buy angelic robes, they cost 4,000 with the silver card. So the 10,000 that you would be spending on Hugh is going to get you 2.5 robes. Now, this is your decision, obviously, but what would you rather have, Hugh or 2.5 robes? For me, it's always 2.5 robes. Now, I would say generally speaking, in Fire Emblem, it's never right to kill recruitable units. And if you do want a mage, as I said, he can be a fine option. His stats are decent. But this is the only time in all of Fire Emblem that I would actually recommend killing a recruitable unit. After you steal the member card, of course, because this is all pointless if you don't get the member card. So, this is, as I said, slightly controversial. You certainly don't have to do this. But if you want the robes, there's some robe money right there, so... Well, I guess I'll talk a little bit about Hugh. Obviously, I just killed him, so I can't really show his stats. But I did show them a little bit. As I said, he's an okay unit. He has decent bases. I think his growths are all fine. If you are hard up at this point for a mage, he could be a decent option. Like I said, I pretty rarely train him because I almost always go with the robes. I think he's just worse than Lolita and Lou, mostly because of his recruit time. But you absolutely can train him. He's not like the worst thing in the world. Like I said, I like to spend money on the robes. And as you can see, Douglas is heading this direction, so we're going to be dealing with him in a minute here. Okay, so I've never actually had Douglas do this. Usually it takes me a little bit longer to get to this stage. Usually it's around here that this town right here that I would, I'd say I get Douglas to. I thought he was going to go here, and I need 3 people to surround him. For some reason, he went up here, which is actually kind of nice, because eventually reinforcements are actually going to come from this staircase, so I would recommend putting somebody on there. But it looks like Douglas just took care of that himself. So as I said, the best way to handle this, I think, is to basically just surround Douglas. Ideally, taking off the weapons of whatever unit he attacks. It's kind of nice to use a green for this, actually, because... or any archer for that matter, because you don't actually have to like take off their weapons. So like, let's say a green and like, oh, I don't know, like Percival, and he'll probably just attack a green over and over again. So you can keep him in the corner. He only has a silver axe, so you don't have to worry about like 2 range or anything like that. But yeah, Douglas is a really important character. I would not recommend killing him because you actually do need to keep him alive for the Gaiden chapter. That's basically the only stipulation for the Gaiden chapter, which is also one of the reasons that I do handle this chapter so slowly, is because this is not a timed Gaiden chapter like the ones we're used to. All you have to do to get to the Gaiden chapter is keep Douglas alive. So from here on out, it's basically just waiting out the reinforcements so we can set up getting all the chests and then getting the secret shop and doing our thing. So there's going to be eventually some reinforcements, as I said, from up here. There's going to be some from here, and then a mage from over here. As I said, just waiting them out wherever you want to do it, I think is the best strategy. Also, eventually a mage will spawn from here, another bolting mage. Which, ideally you have everybody moved far enough forward that doesn't matter. But yeah, just be aware of that. As far as this Manakete is concerned, I know this Manakete does not move, and he has a red gem you can steal. Manaketes are pretty scary, so just be aware of them, but this Manakete definitely does not move. I don't know if this one moves or not. Usually I just use a mage to kill him through the door before I go in there. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure if he moves or not. I guess we can actually find out. Let me make a save state just in case he does move. Yeah, I'm actually curious. Let's find out. Maybe Alan kill this guy. Twitter support. Oh yeah, and as you can see, I also promoted Alan. So Lance and Alan are both amazing characters in this game, and as I've said a bunch of times, I would recommend training both of them. It is a little bit unfortunate because you get the first Knight's Crest really early, and it takes you forever to get the second one. But Alan, especially with the Lance support, can still be really amazing at this stage of the game. So yeah, it's a huge boon. So let's see if that Manakete moves. Oh yeah, and also somebody mentioned this on my last video. When we were baiting out the boltings to turn off unit animation, which is something that I almost never do. But I would highly recommend turning off. We're going to turn off Agreen's unit animation because he's going to be swinging a lot of that silver axe at her, and it's not going to be very fun to watch. So it looks like this Manakete actually doesn't move. Not that opening this door before you're able to kill him is really that useful, but I guess that's something to be aware of. So yeah, I'm just basically going to be baiting out the reinforcements. And that's going to be most of the rest of the chapter, honestly. Okay, so I thought I'd just come back really quick and show the reinforcements that are showing up. Now, I will say, as I said a couple of times before, if you don't really care about these chests or if you don't want to worry about the secret shop, you can potentially kill Narshan at this point, but it is, you're missing out on a lot of items, so just be aware of that. There is basically a mercenary and then a Steel Axe, Hand Axe guy will show up from these two, and then a mage will be coming from here, so just be aware that is what you're going to have to deal with. A lot of these units, like these paladins, these mages, these guys won't move unless somebody's in their range. But yeah, just be aware that is what you're going to have to be dealing with at this stage. Okay, so at this stage I have dealt with all the reinforcements and basically all the units on the map. Now, I just wanted to highlight, I know I mentioned this at the beginning, but a few things that we want to be stealing. So Narshan has a Delphi Shield and a blue gem, which we're going to be taking. There is... I believe there's no... Yeah, you don't have to be faster than anyone to steal in this game. In Fire Emblem 7, and I'll probably do a chapter guide for that too, but you have to have a certain amount of speed, more speed than the opponent to steal, which is why it's actually important to get Matthew in particular a little bit of speed to steal the silver card in that game. In this game, it doesn't matter. You can just do it no matter what. So there's also a red gem on that Manakee, and as I said, and as you can see, the Manakee that's just to the north of blue here does not move. So just be aware of that because that is more money that you can potentially get. Yeah, this guy. So yeah, and then we're going to want to be Zeus over here, which I'll talk about when we recruit him. Can be recruited with Melody, and then we want to get these chests down here. So yeah, that's basically all we need to do at this point. Okay, Zeus is pretty easy to recruit. You just got to break this wall. Hopefully Melody will be strong enough to just take his javelin pretty easily, and then we get Zeus. Now, Zeus is an interesting unit because he is really strong for his level. As a level 7 Wyvern Rider with 19 strength, that's quite insane. I'm not the biggest fan of Zeus, although I think that sort of stems from the trauma that I've experienced by losing him over and over again. So Melody and Zeus, if you're trying to get the good ending, are required for a Gaiden chapter. I believe it's actually the last Gaiden chapter in the game. It might not be the last one, but it's a later one. And if Zeus dies, you don't get that. So this isn't necessarily a reason to use him or not use him, but I guess just be aware of that. One of the other problems with Zeus, other than just being a low level, is that we're only going to get one Delphi Shield, and Melody's just a much better unit. Now, I wouldn't recommend... I don't know, I guess I wouldn't recommend not using Zeus or using him. I don't use him in most playthroughs. He's also a little bit slow. 19 strength, 15 defense, along with 36 health is amazing. But his speed isn't the best in the world, unlike Melody, who just doubles everything. But he is pretty easy to train. So, yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend training Zeus, but I don't think he's a terrible character. He can be pretty good. It's just not being able to use the Delphi Shield is unfortunate. And we're pretty much ready to do the secret shop. So, this can be a little bit tedious as well because... basically, Merlinus needs to have both cards in his inventory, which means you can only sell 3 things at a time. But yeah, when I get there, I'll kind of talk about what I would recommend selling with Merlinus. I guess we can do that right now. Douglas is just going at it. So basically just anything that you don't need. I think that's probably pretty obvious. These lockpicks, it's pretty easy to accrue a lot of lockpicks, so it's not that big of a deal to sell them. Okay, so this is what you can buy here. You can actually buy a lockpick, which is kind of funny. But you can buy Angelic Robes, half off for 4,000. You can also buy, as I said, promotion items. So this is really useful, but basically what we're going to want to do is just buy as many robes as we possibly can. And I'm going to sell a bunch of stuff to try to afford more. But I think that was like 5 or 6 or something that we just bought. And this is 7 health to any unit you want, so it's really busted. So I'm going to do some more selling, and then we'll talk about finishing the chapter. Okay, so I basically scrounged up as much money as I could. It's not necessarily necessary to use all of your money because there are still some other stuff we're going to want to be buying, but this is basically your only opportunity for something as busted as Angelic Robes. And as you can see, I have... How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12... Yeah, I have 15 Angelic Robes. Now, this is pretty busted. Obviously, the robes are going to be extremely useful. We can basically get Roy to max health. We can do stuff like get our Dancer... or Lou to max health, which is really nice. But yeah, as I said, I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend using all of your money because we do still at least want some money left. But I usually just kind of use what's in the convoy to do this. As far as Narshan is concerned, the boss, he does have a rune sword, which can be pretty annoying. But the nice thing is, after you steal the Delphi shield, it's a lot easier to fight him. Generally speaking, I would say that Lu actually does double this guy, but our Lu is actually pretty slow. But yeah, Narshan's pretty easy to kill at this stage, and that's pretty much all we have to do to finish the chapter. Okay, so I just finished with Narshan with Lu, and then we are good to go here. I think there's nothing else that I really want to do. Obviously, if you really want, you can actually distribute the angelic robes right now and do them, because you actually can't use items from the convoy, but you can do that pretty much however you want. And as you can see, we are going to get the Guidance chapter because it is just about keeping Douglas alive. So yeah, as I said, that is, I would say, a slightly controversial strategy that I have. It is a bit tedious to perform, but that's basically the last push for the rest of the game, if you want to look at it that way. Like, once you use those robes, you can pretty much just, it's not like the game's going to be easy, but that's the last, like, tedious thing we need to do. So yeah, as always, I hope everybody enjoyed and was maybe helped out by this, and I'll see you next time.